So our next guest is the one and only native Washingtonian and Howard alum, DC brother Laz Alanzo, joining us from his alma mater. Laz, great to have you. How are
Thank
you?
you so much for having me, Dr. Howard.
Good, good. So we understand you're going to be serving as the Grand Marshal.
Tomorrow, I've been invited to be the Grand Marshal of the Cherry Block to wave at all my fellow in the area that I grew up and love, support all the local businesses and just what made me. I do not believe that I did not have the upbringing that I had here, both academia as well street knowledge, so I met a lot of people here that help black man that I am, and I've used those skills.
Well, that's great, man. Look, I remember we're having some technical difficulties.
It's a little delayed. I'm noticing a delay going on.
I'm not sure, but
I'm not sure.
Tell me,
Can we be some pesos for the? Let me see here.
So we're going to see if we can work this out, people. So give us just a moment.
We'll be
our feed
bringing
is
them
coming
back
from
in.
somewhere else.
Here he is. We'll bring him back in right now. Okay.
All right.
Let's see if the sound is good. Let me hear you talk. Perfect.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's perfect.
Okay.
So I was going to ask you, Laz. Well, before I ask you this, weren't you at one of the Miami Film Festivals about 5-8 years ago? Presenting.
Yeah, I think I was at the Acapulco, the Miami Film Festival, the Black Film Festival, for the movie that I did for Bobby Brown, the Bobby Brown story. Right. And so we went and presented it and premiered it down there. We had a good time.
I tell people, I know you don't remember this, but I tell people when I sat with Laz Alanzo by the poolside, and what I remember most and appreciated was we did a one-on-one. As opposed to all the fans came by and people keep stopping and interrupting. He's like, look, I'm talking to this brother, and I was editor for the Miami Times then. And we were doing our thing. And it felt like just two brothers engaging. And I say, there are some people who are professional, and there's some people who are professionals but don't know what it means. And you were truly a professional. And it's been wonderful to see your career. I just wanted to tell you that you never know how you impress someone by that first impression. But it was really positive. We're glad you're back. And I just wanted to ask you, how does it feel coming home and being the Grand Marshal of the parade and doing your thing? And hopefully the weather's going to hold up for you tomorrow. What's that like, man?
So I made a promise. I said, if I do get to be Grand Marshal, I'm bringing some of that LA sunshine to DC. And I kept my promise. So that's one promise I've kept. We just need to make sure I didn't use it all up today. We get some tomorrow as well. But for me, it's a homecoming of sorts to be able to come to DC, and I always come for Howard's homecoming. As an alma mater of Howard, I come for that. But this is a homecoming for DC. This is being able to celebrate with my city, celebrate the beginning of spring, which is always a good thing. The beginning, in my opinion, of hopefully a future of good health, getting past the last 2 years, which have been stressful for everyone, and now looking forward to being able to be outside, enjoy fresh air and nature and no masks and whatever that may be moving forward. But for me, it's a celebration in many ways, and more than anything, it's me being appreciative of DC welcoming me back. Because it ain't just being the Grand Marshal of the parade, but it's being embraced by your city is nothing better than that.
Sure. So, having grown up here in the district, do you remember any other parades from back in the day, the Martin Luther King parade, or, there's always something going on in DC. You can never get
absolutely.
I'm just wondering, have memories like that?
So I do, man. So in DC, you know, you have so many different cultures and ethnicities. It's definitely a melting pot of cultures, ethnicities, languages, food. I remember the Latin parade. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it used to be down on Columbia Road in Mount Pleasant. And my family would participate in march in the parade and dance and play instruments and all that stuff growing up. It was like the Adams Morgan Day Parade. That's what it was called, the Adams Morgan Day Parade. You know, and I think at some point they moved it down to Constitution Avenue or something. But for a long time, it was right in that little corridor, and it was just a great experience, man. They'd have food vendors out there, and people would be dancing, you know, in the shops, and it was off the chain.
So we're going to move from parades to something about you specifically, and that's we have had the pleasure of watching your career and how you have developed as an actor. Tell us, what would you consider one of your most challenging roles?
You know, for me, working for Spike Lee was a role that, you know, in a movie called Miracle at St. Anna. It was a role that it was one of those pinch me, I've made it moments in Hollywood. And I was very, very hard on myself to do a good job because I was working with one of my idols, one of my icons in film, you know, which was Spike. I got to see how he makes movies. I got to see the process of how why his movies sound and feel the way they do. They have a very unique feel to them. When you're watching a Spike movie, you know it's a Spike Lee movie, you know, and
Sure.
being able to participate in that, having grown up in that, having been a
Yes.
student at Howard and saying, one day I'm gonna be in his movies, and to finally be on set with him side by side was a surreal moment.
Yeah, you know, that's interesting. You talk about that preparation. I sat down with him after he had done it at Chirac.
Mhm.
First, and I used to be a beat reporter in Chicago, so I had been on some scenes where they had done the shooting and the killing, the bodies and the blood and the lines, and thinking, "Wow, this is really crazy." And then he goes and kind of takes me back what I saw as a reporter every day,
Mm.
and it kind of gotten desensitized almost to it because you got to do your job. Um,
Mhm.
you know, as an actor, what's your prep work like? I tell people being a person in media is different from working at JCPenney or IBM 9 to 5. Because I don't know about you brother Laz, but I don't think I ever sleep. I don't think my mind ever turns off.
Mhm.
I try to, but it just won't. And I'm wondering what's your prep work like? How do you do it from day to day?
Well, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is you really don't sleep once you get into that new character. Once you well, it's actually a series of steps. The first step is finding the character, and that takes some research. You got to research the time period in which this person existed. You have to talk to as many people as possible who might be familiar with either the period, or if he's a military person, what branch he's from, how they talk, how they move, what kind of slang they use, what kind of coded language they use. Because everybody in every discipline or every neighborhood has their own language, has their own code. And so you
Right.
have to find it so that you can ad lib in that code, in that language. And the more and more you start researching and reading, it's not just reading the script, it's reading everything else from that time period, so you know how they were thinking, what kind of things affected them at that time. You know, when 20 years from now, when they do a movie about the pandemic, people are going to have to watch broadcasts from this era to know what were people who lived through it watching every single day on the news, and how that affected their anxiety and their stress level, how it affected almost every conversation we've had something to do with that. That's the type of things that as an actor you have to find. And then once you build and find that character, then it almost starts to live in you. Then you kind of live in that space for whatever amount of time that. When I did Fast and Furious, you know, I was walking around with tattoos and a mohawk, you know, for 4 months, and getting pulled over by the cops, and you know, all kinds of stuff. You know, they introduced me at a party one time. They started saying they had a UFC fighter in the house, and I'm like, oh, who? Because I like, you know, I'm a fight fan, and they thought I was a UFC fighter. So it just let me know that I was living in that space to the point where
Right.
I embodied, even when I thought I wasn't acting, I was still moving, and my body language was communicating that energy. So, you know, it's a series of steps, but just like you mentioned, you never truly get out of character until you wrap that film. And then there's a process of getting out of that character, is putting it behind you and letting it go, you know, and refinding yourself.
You know, it's so funny you say that. I remember I had the pleasure of being with August Wilson when I was in Chicago before he died, and they were doing a presentation of all of his shows one weekend, which is hard to believe, the whole series.
Wow.
And one of my good friends is an actor does August Wilson, and he had 2 roles to play. And I remember I said, "How do you learn this?" This is kind of my last question before we go back to the parade. But how do you get all these words? I mean, you got 7 hours of on stage. I don't know if I can remember 7 minutes of on stage. You got 7 hours. You know, you're talking about the role. Does it just become a part of who you are?
You know, I'll tell you, your co-stars are also extremely important. You know, this conversation that you and I are having now is a call and response. I wouldn't know what to say for the next 10 minutes if you did not lead me in a direction that you want this conversation to go. And that's what we do when we do either on stage or in a film. You're listening. You have to listen to the other actor. And a good actor isn't going to give you the same performance or the same delivery twice. So you have to adjust and change based on how they change, and answer their question, answer their improv with them. It's a game. It's a call and response. So what I say is to say, it's not just you, it's the team that you're surrounded by that kind of reminds you of what to say next to.
Wow. Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for that. I'm gonna share that with some people. So it's the team that call and response.
It's the
So
team.
we want to thank you again for being with us. I know that you have some other people to talk to. One of our photographers is with you today, Anthony Tillman, who helped hook up the feed. So Anthony, shout out to you, and to you, Laz Alanzo. If you have any final thoughts about being the Grand Marshal tomorrow, you give us a wave one more time before we move on and let you go, please do so.
It is my honor to be on this interview with you, and it is my honor to be back in DC celebrating such an amazing and beautiful city who has been through so much, and who Black people have contributed so much to the culture of this city, to the music of this city, to the food of this city. You know, when I grew up here, we were called Chocolate City. That was our nickname. You know, it's still not in my heart. So it is an honor to come back and celebrate with DC. And also, everybody that's watching, please tune in to Amazon Prime June 3rd and watch the premiere of The Boys, where I play Mother's Milk. So that's it. That's my shameless plug.
Hey, look, I've got Amazon Prime, and Lazo, give Anthony your information for me so I can get out and tell you we do something before the premiere.
That'd be awesome, man. Thank you so much. I'll definitely do that. Absolutely.
And we'll use some of this video for that. So please do so. God bless you. Safe and have a wonderful time in DC, back home, and at the parade tomorrow.
You as well, brother. Stay safe and stay strong.
I will. All right. Thank you.